I live near a hospital back home, and so I could hear the ambulances go by, during the height of the pandemic. So it was, like I wasn't super upset. It was just, kind of a lot to process really quickly.
Charlottesville Tom Sox pitcher James Vaughn is no stranger to resiliency. He worked his way to Duke University and lived in the heart of New York City during the COVID-19 pandemic's toughest months. His story of finding his voice and earning his spot on the Tom Sox roster is unlike any other.
In the moment, it was pretty difficult to take a bird's eye view, like you were just sort of in it every day. And being from New York City, I didn't leave the house a whole lot. I think I probably went, my longest stretch without going outside was 10 days or something like that. So I really was not getting outside. And if I was, it was just to go for a walk. Nothing exciting was happening outside. So yeah, I mean, it was just kind of wild, losing all that so quickly.
So you mentioned there being ambulances driving by your house during the height of COVID in New York. That must have been really intense, seeing COVID up close and personal like that. How did that kind of shape your outlook on life and your relationships with the people around you?
I learned really just there wasn't a whole lot to do. I didn't throw, I didn't, I worked out a lot. But it was all body weight stuff. The gym in my building was closed, and so I just kind of learned how to try to stay happy. And not just sort of filling holes for a couple hours, trying to make it sustainable. I think I got better at knowing what I needed to be happy. And I wasn't always there, but I was, I had better awareness. And for as much as it was a pandemic, so obviously it sucked. I think I did learn a few things from it.
During the longest months of the pandemic, Vaughn's father was working in Atlanta, making him and his family adaptable to the changing circumstances. This is just one example of how Vaughn has adapted to finding community wherever he goes.
We played cards all the time after dinner, which was a lot of fun. Just being able to my dad lived in Atlanta during the pandemic because he had a job down there. And so, talking with him on Sunday, it was Sunday dinners, so we'd Zoom him in for Sunday dinners. So, finding a balance of being able to lean on your family, but also, knowing how to pull away and talk to your friends. Being in a tiny New York apartment where, I've got my 14-year-old brother is my roommate, and my mom lives 10 feet down the hall, and there's really nowhere to hide unless you lock the bathroom door. So I remember the first couple weeks, my friends and I would stay up till 4 in the morning and do multiple crossword puzzles. We'd do the Washington Post Sunday crossword puzzle was it's 200 clues. So we would just stay up. We actually stayed up till 4 one night doing 3 of those. And just leaning on my friends. And then I learned how to bake. I could not cook before the pandemic. I was terrible. And I just kind of dove headfirst into baking, and that would take up anywhere between 1 and 5-6 hours a day.
Vaughn is also a self-starter. In addition to being an avid baseball player and scholar, he has also taught himself the bass guitar after playing the bass in orchestra.
Tell us a little more about how you started playing the bass guitar.
In 5th grade, we had to play a string instrument. So I was tall, and so I chose the bass. Well, the bass kind of chose me, specifically the teacher, but he was also a really cool dude. We're still in contact. So I played the upright bass 5th and 6th grade, and I just, I thought it was a lot of fun. And I took lessons, and starting in midway through 6th grade, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And then in 8th grade, I started picking up the electric bass a little bit here and there in our lessons. He would bring it in because a lot of our orchestra pieces were kind of easy. And so, I would play the bass periodically then, and then he left to go do more performing on Broadway. but he gave me like his student base, which is the one I have upstairs. And so in 9th grade, like his sort of like friend and like kind of mentee like sort of took over the bass teacher position at my school, and so I kept playing like upright bass and orchestra all the way through, but all my lessons were electric bass.
After growing up with academic parents, Vaughn is comfortable talking about social justice issues. One of his most visible protests is his kneeling during nearly every game this Tom Sox season during the national anthem.
So speaking of collegiate, your high school, you have a lot of history doing social justice work there, including the open letter that went nearly viral and writing a piece on gun violence in the wake of the Parkland school shooting. How does it feel, and how are you kind of naturally prepared to be in this social justice position?
You know, when you're like in the moment, like in the day-to-day, it's hard. It's kind of hard to like take that step back, because you've got like a paper due tomorrow, and you've got 3 games this weekend or whatever. But sometimes when you get a chance to take a step back, and for me sometimes that's like when I like kneel during the anthem, it's just like being able to take that step back and like look at, look around. Yeah, it's kind of amazing. Yeah, it's kind of amazing to see where I am versus where things were like 200 years ago.
Today, Vaughn is continuing to use his voice to be vocal about the issues that matter to him, and it is clear that this summer in Charlottesville has left a mark.
One of the things that like my mom used to say, and also my like history teacher senior year had this on a shirt, but it was like, "We are our ancestors' wildest dreams." And so it's just like like being able to go to Duke, which is like a top 10 university, and being able to play baseball, which is like, it's well documented that baseball was not always open for everybody to play together. So all of this stuff is just like, I think education is like education and prison or criminal justice are like America's 2 biggest failings, with like healthcare is kind of a close third. The way that things have gone, we haven't really kind of lived up to a lot of the words of our like founding documents and founding fathers, and a lot of the the documents that they were reading, like Locke and Hobbes. I mean, some of them had their own troublesome racial rhetoric, but it just feels like those are like 2 of our country's biggest failings. And being a student, watching how like, especially with kids, like things can develop so quickly, and so like it doesn't take long for a kid to be 2 years behind in reading level or things like that, and that's all stuff that's like avoidable. And the way we fund schools like could be changed, but like there's a lot of people who just like don't want to put the effort into changing it. So yeah, there's just so many different issues, and I mean it all connects. I mean it connects like the prison pipeline. Obviously that connects to slavery. Like there's really a lot of there's so much going on there that we're not doing right. There's very little we're doing right in education.
The loss of his final season of baseball has only added the fuel to the fire that Vaughn needs to succeed this summer in Charlottesville, and he has quickly made the city his home. You may have seen him biking around from work at Farm Bell Kitchen to his apartment on 15th Street to Crutchfield Park.
There's a lot of like really good restaurants. We get a lot of people at these games. There's a lot of like really interesting stuff through UVA. UVA is a huge part of the town, but there's also a ton of like interesting stuff that's just not through UVA. And I created a bucket list on my phone of like things I want to accomplish that I'm while I'm here, like things I want to see. So far I don't think I've gotten to any of them because I don't know how to drive. But I'm in the process of trying to bum rides to some of these places.
What's on the bucket list?
I went to Monticello once, and I really want to go back. I thought it was really interesting. I want to go to Carter's Mountain, but yeah, I think those are the 2 that I remember. It's like like the priorities on the list, and then just a couple hikes, just visiting like the Appalachian Mountains, and it's such a beautiful area around here. I'm like here in Charlottesville, and like the mountains of Virginia, which is like that. I have family from here who like were enslaved in this area. So, and I'm, you know, not. So, you know, thinking about all of that, like taking that step back, it's, you know, it's kind of crazy to think about all of that. You don't always get a chance to do it, but when you do, I think it's important.